Were you a fan of Shakespeare? But isn't that why productions like this are amazing? I say this, Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah, it really is.
Anyone else you'd like to act with?
I'm in this company at the moment, and like, I didn't know so many of these people before we started rehearsing, and now I'm like, oh, I'd pick them in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
They're a dream to be in a play with.
And you're now performing something that you found inaccessible at some point to them and making it accessible.
Yeah.
And isn't that an amazing, like, 360?
I remember watching Les Mis in the West End with my mum, and her being like, you could do that one day. I was like, oh, do you think? Imagine.
Welcome to the Bridge Theatre podcast, where we'll meet the people who make the magic happen. On stage, backstage, and everywhere in between. We'll dive into their first spark for theatre, the moments that shape them, and even build their fantasy theatre production. Think dream casts, legendary creative teams, and shows that may or may not exist yet. And of course, the perfect stage to present them on. Along the way, we'll find out their most memorable moments at the Bridge, and even find out what they'd be doing if they weren't in the land of theatre. I'm Pauline Fallowell, your host for this series. So get comfy, we'll get the curtain up, and we'll get started. This week, we're joined by the lovely David Moorst, who is very much part of the Bridge Theatre family. He started here in 2018 in Alleluia and has performed as Puck in Midsummer Night's Dream both in 2019 and again now in 2025. So, hi David.
Hello.
I mean, you've done more than that, I'm quite aware.
Just
I mean,
in the bits in between.
Nothing exists outside of theatre, right? What would you like to say in your own words, what you do? Because actually, people say actor, but I'm sure there's more to, there's more to who you are than that label. And a little plotted history, maybe.
Yeah. I'm an actor, which that's how I describe myself. But I suppose, I love being able to say that I'm an actor. It's sort of something that, I dreamed of being able to say. But I suppose as you go on, I'd describe myself as a freelancer, a creative, an artist. I think, there's lots of things that I feel like I fit under the umbrella of, as well as like not just working as an actor in theatre or film, TV, radio, whatever it might be. But I suppose all the things that you do like in between I've learned to become so important as to like what make you an artist and sort of what make you, we're all individual and unique, but I suppose the things that you do in between sort of inform how you go about your way as an artist. I spend my time I work in between, and I've done so many various bits and bobs, random things, work in front of house, working in bars and coffee shops and cafes, and trained as a baker and a cake decorator, and doing all sorts of things that I think is lovely. You surround yourself with people that are not actors and not directors and not creatives, and I think that's like really important, because I think ultimately they're the people that you tend to tell stories about, and they're the people that we try to be like when we're making theatre or whatever it might be.
And the people we're talking to as well.
Absolutely. They're the people that are going to be sat in the audiences. There will be actors and there will be people that sort of exist in theatre that will obviously come because they hopefully like it and like watching it. But, I think it's really important to know that they're not just, it's the people that are, out on the street and going to work that is not theatre. They're people that I think it's really important to spend time around, and I really enjoy working with, because I think then, you can always draw on the people that you've met and the people that you've worked with and those experiences when you come to make plays like this one.
Oh, joy. That's so nice. I love that you're like, I am an actor. It's like there's an actor. It's like with every human. It's like you're a mum, or you're a, you have all these different things, but you're more than just that. You've got, you're not just one label.
Absolutely.
We're complicated humans.
Absolutely. So much more. And it's so amazing when you talk to actors in any company, if that's how they describe themselves, but that they do often have so, very rich and full lives that are not just making plays and things like that.
You don't just exist in this.
I know, I don't just exist in these, in this theatre. If only.
You sound so passionate about that, and I love that you're like, it's an honour to be an actor. What was your first touch point with theatre? What made you go, that actor, that's it, that's me?
I think that when I was at school, secondary school, I was quite musical when I was younger. I played the cornet and the trumpet, and I was in a brass
Amazing.
band and things. And then,
Very cool.
you know, I sort of stumbled into that very much by accident. But then through that, when I got to secondary school, they sort of wanted to encourage any sort of, you know, extracurricular sort of musical activities. But I think basically they were low on boys who wanted to be in the school musical. I did a musical every year at my school.
Wow.
And they really wanted boys to be involved, and I really resisted it at first because I really didn't think I really didn't want to draw extra attention to myself. You know, I found secondary school quite difficult, but so I was like, no, I probably don't want to end up in a musical. But I couldn't really resist it, and because I was involved in the sort of musical side of my school anyway, they sort of coerced me into having singing lessons, and through that I ended up being in. They were doing the musical that year was Honk, which is the story of the Ugly Duckling.
Yes.
And it's like a brilliant musical. It's really brilliant, and I just never been exposed to things like that before. And yeah, they obviously were shocked because they gave me a part straight away.
Who did you play?
I played, there was 4 ducklings that were like the brothers and sisters to the Ugly Duckling.
Okay.
And they, probably the reason they didn't tell us what the musical was about before we said yes to it was that we had to wear these like big, fluffy, yellow dungarees with like orange moon boots and a yellow cap. They sound great. They sound great, but as at my school at the time, you probably didn't want to be a boy doing that at the time. But before that point, I remember really clearly this moment where we started rehearsals, and mainly the people that were in it were like much older than me. They were in like the 6th form that was a part of my school, like year 10, year 11, and I was only first year, year 7 at that time. And we did a rehearsal, and I had 2 lines. And I just was so nervous, and I remember standing behind this like thick black curtain where you just had to go onto this like black box stage, and all these older people were sat there, and they seemed so experienced at the time. And I just remember this feeling of sort of like, you either do it or you don't do it. You either go 100% for it or just don't do it at all and just walk out the room. And I just went for it. I didn't know what I was doing, and I just followed my whatever. I don't know what it was at the time. I don't even know if it was an instinct at the time, and said these 2 lines. And I remember people laughing, but not in like a mean way. I sort of made people laugh. I was like, my God, I can't believe I did that. Like, I don't know what that feeling. And then...
What a cool memory.
It was a really like, and I remember it so specifically, and I remember who was there, and I just thought, wow, that's so like a group of strangers, and I managed to do that just by saying these words. And I suppose I've been chasing that feeling ever since, really.
Have you found it again?
I think so, every so often.
Well, it's addictive, isn't it? That like chemistry.
I know.
There isn't a word for it, I don't think. I bet there is in some language somewhere, but...
Yeah, I feel like there is a bit of magic that like, you know, sort of saying words and enacting sort of, I don't know, like going out, trying to play a character, doing it in a way that will, you know, speak to other people, a group of strangers watching it, and that they'll be able to feel something about what you're saying or doing. I think that's it, really, and I think that's sort of what I've been following and sort of wanted to do ever since that moment.
I love it. And I love that it didn't put you off by putting you in a big yellow...
No, let me tell you, I really wanted to those dungarees, because then I was like, actually, I do really love dressing up. So
amazing. And so that was secondary school?
That was secondary school, yeah.
And then you went from there and you went to...
I went from there, and as I went through the school, I then ended up being in the musical every year. They did 1 musical every year, and I just was hooked. And I then thought that I didn't really think it was something I could do up until one teacher at my school who was so supportive. There was a number of teachers that were very supportive, and some that were very not supportive, like you should do a sensible job and this is not something that you should pursue. But one teacher in particular was like, you know, what are you going to do? And I didn't really know at the time, and I thought maybe I'd be, I don't know, maybe a teacher or something, but I didn't really know what of. And that was really the only thing I was passionate about was performing.
Amazing.
And so he was like, you should look at drama school, which was a world I didn't know about at all and felt so overwhelming to even try and, look at.
Yeah.
But because of him, I did audition for drama schools, and even in that, the sort of doing monologues, which felt so alien, but I sort of, there was something about it that I really loved, because you got like a slot of time where you were going to do a speech, a bit of performing, and somebody was going to watch it, and really that's what I like wanted to do, and so and then ended up, was so lucky. 2 years after that, I didn't get in anywhere the first year, but then went to Lambda, where I did train for 3 years. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's interesting that yours was like, different people have different, and it's often watching, but yours was actually performing. Do you remember the first thing you watched as an audience member? Or...
Yeah, there were things, like I remember watching musicals. I remember coming to London with my mum for the first time, and I think just getting off at Euston Station sort of swept me off my feet, really. But we would go and watch musicals and things, which I loved, because that sort of was how I got into it at secondary school. I remember watching Les Mis in the West End with my mum, and her being like, you could do that one day. I was like, oh my God, do you think? Imagine. Like, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But when the first time I watched I remember the first time I watched a play was because I auditioned at drama school my first year, and one drama school, they were like, what have you seen that you've loved? And I was like, I've seen Les Mis, I've seen Wicked, I've seen Billy Elliot, I've seen Saturday Night Fever at the Liverpool Empire, and they were like, what about plays? Because this is like a straight act, you're doing like a classical. And I was like, God, that's never occurred to me to watch I've never really, it's just because it wasn't on my radar at all.
Wow, so you were a latecomer to plays?
I was a latecomer to watching plays.
Great.
The first play I watched was not a success. I remember watching it, was like, oh God, she's not I didn't really think it was my bag at all, but slowly, my journey into plays was much slower, much more gradual. But as it went on, I did see things where I was like, that's the sort of, they're doing the thing that I'm chasing, which is like, suddenly you're sat in an audience and feeling the thing that was what I'd felt like I'd done all them years ago when I went out into that little theatre.
I love the idea of musicals being your gateway drug to like plays.
They really were, yeah. They're so accessible, I think, because musical is so much more like part of people's lives anyway. But yeah, it really was my sort of gateway drug into it.
And like, so lovely hearing all of that. And now it's making me curious to go, right, if you were doing your own production in your own space, what would it be? I'm now like, is it musical? Is it a play? Now, like, where is this landed?
Yeah, I find these questions so hard to answer.
That's why we're asking.
I know. Well, but only because, like, I suppose everything that I've done so far, I've never had like a dream role or like things that I've been like, oh, I really want to do this, but like, I've always been so excited about the thing that has sort of come through, and I've read it and been like, my God, this is brilliant, or like, things that I never thought of doing. I certainly never imagined that I'll be doing a Shakespeare play certainly not in like a professional capacity.
Did you not, ever?
Not at all.
Were you a fan of Shakespeare? But isn't that why productions like this are amazing? I say this, Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah, it really is. Like, when, we were here doing Alleluia and we were in rehearsals, and it was Nick who said, during rehearsals that, like, oh, have you done Shakespeare? And I was like, I did it at drama school, but I don't think it went down, like, hugely well. And just, I think it's just really daunting, I think, Shakespeare. I think these plays are really daunting, and I think they're put on such a pedestal that they almost feel like they have to be done a certain way, or if you don't know that way, then really you shouldn't be involved in doing them or watching them. And I also think they've been sort of, I don't know, on a pedestal, I think is probably a good way.
There's a weight, isn't there? It's like, oh, Olivier did that.
Exactly. And I think and it feels like there's spoken in a certain kind of voice, and they're sort of performed in a certain kind of way. But I think that's why it feels so amazing to have been given the opportunity, not just to do it at all, but to do it twice round, like for Nick to have asked me to do it, and for him to sort of think that I was somebody that could play a part like Puck is amazing, you know, I never dreamed it. And
I think it comes back round as well to your point of saying you want to make, you know, you are out in the real world with real people and you're now performing something that you found inaccessible at some point to them and making it accessible.
Yeah.
And isn't that an amazing, like, 360?
It's so amazing to me. And like, the loveliest thing about doing this play is that the audience are so there with you in the pit, and that you can sort of really feel like they really are a part of it.
Yeah.
And it really does affect the play every night, because it's like you've got a whole chorus full of people that are going to be a part of the company for that night.
So do you reckon if you were doing something, you'd make it?
I think listen, I love doing it like this. I find it terrifying. It is so daunting, especially like as playing this part, because I don't actually get to do much acting with anyone on a nightly basis. I think I get a couple of scenes
you are very
with
fond,
Titania.
though, aren't you?
Yeah, but like rehearsing it is really hard, because everyone on stage is basically ignoring you. They're like pretending that you're invisible, and then you only get to react off the audience, like once you start, you know, once we start previews.
It's coming back to that little boy on that stage.
Exactly, yeah.
Hello, that's me. Gonna make you laugh.
I do love this setup, like, and I would love to work more like this, definitely.
If you were casting yourself in like your dream, have you got like a dream production? That's such a tough question.
Do you know, there are people that I would really, I was thinking about this question, and I think like, there are people that I would have loved to have made things with, and you know, like.
Oh, this could totally be like people past, present.
Well, I would think back
Duck,
to like.
if you want to.
Well, I think back to people like Victoria Wood and Julie Walters as like a duo. I would so love to have been a part of like when they were like writing sketches and making plays and doing things at the Bush Theatre. Like when I've grew up watching those and like, I just thought, what, you know, and that. They're sort of, I don't know, everything they made together and sort of seeing the growth of it over time. Like, I think they were amazing, and I would love to have been able to have made a play with people like that, or act with somebody like Julie Walters. Or a musical.
Didn't they?
Imagine being in the musical with music by Victoria Wood.
What was it called? Eight Born Teaks.
Yeah. I mean, like, absolute dream. Like, I would. Yeah, in a heartbeat, I would love to have been a part of something like that.
And would you want to be part of the writing process as much as the? Are you happy for someone just go, here you go? Like,
I've certainly been inspired by people, because obviously, people like Victoria Wood writing and performing, I've sort of always been really, and I've certainly tried my hand at writing and do sort of pursue that in my like, you know, when I'm not acting. And people like Caroline Aherne, who wrote The Royal Family, and like, she's somebody that I, you know, if like they were ever writing plays, like, oh, she's not around anymore, really sadly, and like, but you just think, God, yeah, she's such a brilliant writer, and somebody who has such a great knack at putting the magnifying glass on sort of a specific, way of life.
And you have such beautiful comic timing. Like, it's like you would be so good at, like, again, and that audience, I can see how exactly where that's come from.
Yeah, they're the people that I grew up watching and being, inspired by.
Gosh, for them to come together and do some kind of musical.
Imagine, I know.
In an immersive setting.
Yeah, that would be dream scenario.
Who would your, so we've done, anyone else you'd like to act with? Is there any like people that you're like, oh, that'd be really interesting to have been with them, and you drag them in because of their comic timing or because they're...
Again, I find it so hard to say, because I like...
I suppose you're in the middle of it, aren't you?
When you're in it, now we're in this thing, like, you know, I'm in this company at the moment, and like, I didn't know so many of these people before we started rehearsing, and now I'm like, oh, I'd pick them in a heartbeat. They're a dream to be in a play with, and I always feel like that by like being surprised by the people that you get to meet doing this job, that I'm like, they're the people that I would have, like I got to do. You
can't imagine it any other way.
I can't imagine it now, and I got to work somebody that I think she'd be so embarrassed that I'm saying this, but I got to do some filming with Maxine Peake years ago, who I again grew up watching in Dinner Ladies, obviously Victoria Wood, and then and somebody else who I think probably the only person who was the person that I dreamed working with and I got to was Mike Lee, who again probably would find that very embarrassing, but I got to make a film with him, and Maxine played my mum. And I did tell her at the time, once we did a scene choosing that day, and I didn't think it had gone very well. And she was like, what's wrong? And I was like, I just love you and I just want to do a good job in front of you. And she was so nice. But she's somebody that I would love to make a play with.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
She'd be great.
she's
She has done
amazing.
stage. She is
and she's
great,
such a
so-
theatre animal as well.
Yeah.
She does so much stuff, and I see her in everything. But yeah, so.
my
But you never know. I
Yes.
think I just am like excited to see what surprises come my way. Really.
Do you find it weird when you lose, like, because as you say, you form such an amazing company. Like, I've been lucky enough to be backstage a couple of times, but it's such an amazing group. Like, is it really hard to leave that group once you've?
Yeah, I think it is hard because it's such a weird job being a performer because you don't know anyone and you have to deep dive into being sort of quite vulnerable with people straight away.
It's like Freshers Week. All over.
Yeah, exactly. And then suddenly it feels really hard at first and quite exposing, but then all of a sudden you've got these relationships with people that are really sort of quite deep and meaningful because you're all really looking after that sort of vulnerability that you all felt on the first day. And so you're all really, you're very much looking after each other. And there's a sort of bond, I think, of understanding of that. And then that only grows over the time that you're doing it. And to perform in front of a live audience, which is, I think, terrifying and it really exciting. But there is something about it where you're like, why do I put myself through this every night? But obviously I love it. But you are really held by the people that you've made this play with. And we all really look after each other. So it is sad when it comes to an end. And that is soon to happen. We're not far away from it. But the best thing about this job that I've learned is that, like, you do get to spend time making a piece of art with people. You get to not only spend time with them and work with them, but you get to learn so much from them. And I've learned so much from the people in this company. But then you get to walk away and it's not over. You've just made a whole new group of friends. Like, your community gets even bigger.
So fun.
And that's such a lovely thing to leave with, you know. I think that's, the best bit of it, really.
Do you often go and watch theatre when you're not doing this? And
Yeah,
like,
when I
what
can
is
afford
your,
to, yeah.
Do you, true. I was going to say, what's your favourite, like, experience of going? Like, do you have, like, a favourite, like, I have, like, I like to go and get my popcorn or my wine or my, like, do you have, like, traditions and just going to watch? Or are you like, I'll just go see a thing, do whatever?
Do you know, I think the most exciting thing for me is the bit just before, like, when you're sitting, waiting for it to happen.
Yeah.
Because I think that feeling is so similar to the thing of sitting, waiting backstage to go out. And, like, I always just, that feeling before you're about to watch a play, just before the lights go down, I'm a bit like, they're going to do the thing that I love doing.
Oh.
And I just have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to see what the story is, who's going to be involved, and, like, what I'm going to leave different.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I think the worst thing is when you go to see something, you feel like it's never changed. You've not changed at all.
Mm-hmm.
That very rarely happens, actually. I think even if you don't particularly enjoy something, I think as an actor or as someone who works in theatre, you always sort of learn something from the thing that you've gone to see.
Yeah.
So that maybe is an added thing if you're working in theatre. But, like, I think when you leave the theatre and you feel like you've changed and you feel like that there's a bit of you that won't be the same because of what you've seen, is amazing. I think that's and to experience that with a group of strangers sat around you, I think it is a bit, it's magic.
There is, but I don't think there is any other place you can do that. Like gigs, there's a kind of moment with it, films kind of, but I think theatre is.
Yeah, I think it's
special.
a really, to tell a story in this sort of way, you know, I think, and I don't think it's speaking down to any other art form. I think it's more just appreciating how amazing it is to go to a gig and how amazing it is to go to a gallery. And, like, there are, those things are unique in their different ways. And, you know, but I think, theatre is special because of how individual it is. And that, to me, there is just something so bizarre about a group of people who don't know each other sitting in a dark room, watching a story being told, and experiencing that together. But there's a reason it's been going on for as long as it has, and I think there is something about it that people really do want, and that why I think it is so amazing to do a play like the one that we're doing that is hundreds of years old.
Yes.
And that we're still doing it, and people are going away, feeling the way that they're feeling after this show. I mean, it's a blast, and like they feel changed by it, which I love. And if nothing else, they've had a fun night.
Yeah.
From what I'm gathering, so that's
what we're hearing on the screen. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, you obviously love theatre, and that's amazing. Bringing it back to this little venue here, and the fact that you have done bits and pieces. I know we've already talked quite a lot about Dream, but do you have like one standout moment of being at the Bridge and the kind of bridgeness of it all? Is there anything that's more individual for this venue, for what you've done here?
I do think that in this play, I mean, we're about to close. We're not far off finishing, but when we first made it, there's a bit at the end of the play. Spoiler alert! I don't know when this comes out, but there's a bit at the end of the play. Yeah, great. It'll be all there. But if you didn't get to see it, there's this bit at the end of the play where basically the audience who are in the pit, they get involved and hold hands and walk around, and there's music playing. It just feels like we go through the night and nobody knows. It's a room full of strangers. We all come into the room and watch this play, and then by the end of it, it feels like a bond has been created by this audience, and they hold hands and they walk around in a circle and they become a part of, this blessing of this creative space. Basically, is how I see it from the final speeches that are given at the end of the play. And I remember that so clearly the first time that we did the show in front of an audience in 2019.
Yeah.
And I get the best view in the house because I basically am in a silk in the middle of the space above everybody. And so nobody gets the view that I get because I get to see the whole of the audience. And I also get to see everybody doing the move. And the whole cast are down there and they're involved with the audience. They're holding hands as well. And this music is playing. And I remember that more than anything. And to come back to it, especially after doing the play then, and then in lockdown, I remember, obviously the world changed in between then and now. Yeah. And I remember the NT Live happening. And I didn't watch it because I didn't really want to watch it. I didn't really want to watch it.
And watch live on YouTube.
I found that really strange. But I was so glad that people really wanted to watch it. But that it was at the time where theatres had closed, and it was a time when we couldn't touch each other. We couldn't touch each other.
Hands with a stranger
and it was a very real thing that there was a point where we just the idea of sitting in a room with more than 10 people felt impossible. So the idea of theatre ever happening again felt like it was really at risk. It felt like a real threat that would never happen. And so to come back, like when we did the first night here, and we did that moment again, and I'm sat in exactly the same place, and it's exactly the same thing. It sort of moves me every night. It sort of brings me to tears because I do think it's just the most beautiful way to end a play and to get to do the last speech, which is basically about, thank you for coming. We really hope you enjoyed it. But you know what? If you didn't, please don't stop going to the theatre because this can happen. And it's a really amazing thing that you've all come here tonight. And so it was part of the thing of why I felt so lucky to be able to come back to it, and why I couldn't have said no, because I was like, this,
just for that moment.
this thing felt like it couldn't have happened again. So it feels really special to me that moment happens.
Every night, I mean, it sounds bad, doesn't it? Say every night you have the 400 people holding hands, and they just do it.
They just do it.
It's such a credit to the show and your performances and everything that people just are swept up in it. And as you say, that magic of theatre and just that understanding of you just go with it, don't you?
Just go with it.
Taken on this.
Yeah, and I think they're sort of being on their feet and involved in it throughout, especially for those people in the pit. I think that they do feel a part of something, and I think that's what theatre should make you feel in a way. I think you should feel a part of the thing that you've gone to see, and even if that's just to feel a responsibility and that you're like, oh no, I have a role to play now. I've got to hold hands and I've got to be part of this movement sequence. Like, I think that's really cool.
Because some people hate that, but it's such a minimal thing. I think,
and I don't think they realise how hard it is for us to do. You know, because we get really involved in the audience every night, and we have to like, you know, say certain lines. I've got lots of it, and it's so terrifaying to do because you are like, oh, it is daunting.
Because you don't know what they're going to do and if they will
No,
react.
exactly. You're like, please get involved.
Yeah, please be up for this. Oh, I love that. Oh, do you know what? That is such a perfect moment for the bridge, and I love that. Theatre is such a thing for you. So, and I know you've said that you have other bits and pieces involved, but say you hadn't had that moment on stage as a little kid, say you hadn't been an ugly duckling, where do you think you'd be now?
I really, do you know, I really don't know. I really don't know. But I think I would have, I think there's obviously like a creative, I think why I'm an actor is because I feel like I do feel like I'm doing the thing that I should be doing.
You
like,
would be at a desk job just somewhere.
I don't think I could do that. I don't think I could go to do the same thing every day. I don't think I could. I think I need the sort of like not knowing what's next, and I think I need the fear of going out on stage or doing some kind of performing. But I did fall before being, you know, coerced into being a duckling. I was in this brass band, and I do think that I probably would have pursued that more because that again was a real accident. Yeah. I was mistaken for somebody else one day, picking up my brother from I think he was playing cricket at school or football or something. He's older than me, my brother. Yeah. And the music block is right next door to the sports block at the secondary school I went to. It was a big secondary school, and it was on a Saturday, and a woman who obviously thought I looked like another little boy who played the cornet was like, you're late, you need to, and sort of dragged me. And I was so nervous at the time that I just ended up being sat in a brass band holding the cornet. And I obviously couldn't play it. I was so mortified and terrified, and I was so like nervous. And then obviously after a while they noticed I wasn't playing it, and they were like, who are you? I was like, my name's David. I don't play it. And then I got taken out. My mum was like a bit sort of panicked because she didn't know where I'd gone. She took her eyes off me for 2 seconds. And then they were like, why did you say yes? And I was like, I was just so scared to, you know, I didn't know what to do.
You were that kind of, I was like, it's just like, yes,
you just like, just went along with it.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh, you don't play the cornet? I said, no. They were, would you like to learn? And I was like, okay, yeah. So I did. And then I went to these like Saturday classes and learned to play the cornet.
And then a brilliant
story. so mad. But I think because whilst I was sat there in that band not playing, I was listening to it and I was like, this is so good. This is such an amazing sound. Like a brass band is such a brilliant sound, which took me really by surprise. And then ended up being in a brass band for like a long time up to secondary school, and did it all through secondary school. But I remember my brass teacher, who I was, you know, went to throughout secondary school as well. She was like, you really need to decide what you're going to do. She was like, because you either do this or you concentrate on this full time, or you don't. Like, you need to commit.
That's really tough, isn't it, at that age?
Really tough, because it's that weird thing like GCSEs and all that time where you're like, you feel like you're making big decisions about your life.
Yeah.
But I do remember,
you're so young.
But I do remember thinking, I really love this, but there's something about it that's not quite. By that point, I'd been a duckling in dungarees. So I'd been like, oh, but there's this other mad thing that actually I think offers me more in terms of what I could be able to perform, you know. And I don't think, there was something about it. But I think actually, if I'd not had that moment of being an ugly duckling, I think I would have stuck with the brass band.
Have you ever been able to play the cornet in a show? Have you?
When I did the thing I was talking about, the Mike Leigh film, at the beginning shot of it, I was playing a soldier who was at Waterloo, and he played the bugle, and so the bugle is not the same as the cornet, but similar. So I played it in that, and so that was pretty cool.
Gosh, that sounds like such a dream.
Yeah,
job
it was so
for you.
cool.
Tick.
Yeah, it's amazing how these things come around, and you end up using things that you never thought you used, or end up doing silk aerial, which were never a skill in the first place, but then you end up learning to do it. So, you know,
like the fact that you had never done aerial before, and like that's an amazing thing for actors. I always think it's that thing of, I'm always so jealous of not the acting part, but the more they're like, right, okay, for this role you need to be able to do this specific thing. We're going to teach it to you, and it's like, can you pay me to learn how?
I know.
I also know it was very grueling and very tough.
Oh, it's
bruises.
hard work, but I do think it's so amazing for like this job of being an actor. Some skills you're like, oh, I had this thing that I learned once, and then it comes full circle, like playing the cornet, and you end up using it in a job. And then some things like this job in particular, when they suggested the idea of aerial, and in particular aerial silk work, which is the sort of silk hung in a loop, basically. It's like a silk. It's like a silk hammock, basically, which you sort of sit in and you wrap yourself in, and you can spin and flip in and out of and do all sorts of different things.
You just basically head over hills.
Tumble to
over and over, don't you?
Very dizzy. Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea how you. Well, you do have the interval then, don't we? So
Yeah. I can just sort of stumble off the stairs, and someone holds my hand when I'm coming down the stairs, and my eyes are like goggling everywhere. But like obviously I didn't know how to do that. There was a really scary moment when Nick.
As in Nick Heitner, director.
Nick Heitner, who's building West Attic. Yeah. He when we were coming to the end of Alleluia, and he'd sort of, I suppose, settled on this idea of doing Midsummer Night's Dream, and he was like, I'd like you to play Puck, and that was really exciting. He then, it had been like a few weeks since he first mentioned it, and then he was like...
Did you take him seriously at that point? Were you like,
I think when Nick Heitner asks to be in a play, it just felt like a bit too much. It felt too good to be true. And it's sort of one of them things where I was like, I've probably misheard that, and probably won't happen. But I just take it as like a huge compliment. Yeah. But then it did, and still, I think probably one of the most memorable moments of working at this theatre is that happening, and he's... Yeah, I feel so grateful to have worked with him at all, but to be asked to do a part like this.
And then to be coming back as well. It wasn't like, he wasn't good enough. So.
No, I was like, it just struck me. I'd be like, no, we don't want that anymore. But also that he was like, and also we've got this idea we're going to do these aerial silks, and we'll... or I think he just mentioned aerial work at the time, so it could have been like hoop, it could have been trapeze. He was like, but we'll have the furries like flying. Yeah. He said, and then of course we'll have you. And I was like, oh my God, is that on my CV? And I've just like, is that like just under like playing the cornet, and I've just clicked the wrong thing. And so I was terrified, because I was like, do you know I can't do that? Yeah. And he was like, no, but we'll send you to this circus space, and that will, if you can do it, it's great. And if you can't, then don't worry. And again, just because they're such brilliant teachers, like really incredible teachers at that school at the National Centre for Circus Arts, who sort of got me fit enough to do it and gave me the skills to be able to do it. It just ended up being something that we really, definitely this time around took advantage of. Like, I think the first time around we really didn't know what it was or how we could fit it into the play. It felt a bit more like an experiment. A successul one.
Very much. Yeah.
I remember being so terrified, because I was like, not only am I doing Shakespeare, but I'm trying to do it upside down, and it's just a bit too... But, it's just been, an amazing thing to be able to put into it.
And again, that's the joy of theatre. It's bringing everything together, isn't it? Like music, art, like silks, aerial, like, flying from the ceiling, and Shakespeare. Like, I know. It's like a cocktail that you'd kind of be like, what?
And if somebody said, it's just not something that sounds like, it does feel mad to be doing this every night. And I do have to check in with myself to be like, this is so not what I thought I'd be doing, but in like the best way. It's such a joy. So.
Oh, I'm so glad. Happiness. Well, thank you.
Happy to be here.
Oh, thank you for being here.
No, at all.
And I'm sure you'll be back at some point.
In 6 years. Another 6 years.
We've got to book you in. Maybe not for Dream. Maybe we'll find something else.
Yeah, okay.
We'll do Acorn, what's it called? Acorn Antiques.
Acorn Antiques.
We'll bring that one back.
With silks.
With silks?
Yeah.
Done.
I'm in.
Booked.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. And that's it for this episode of the Bridge Theatre podcast. A massive thank you to David Moorst for his time and the fun theatre stories. Please follow us on any platform you get your podcasts. If it's YouTube, hit subscribe, because it helps us find more people. If you'd like to find out more about the Bridge Theatre, the people here, the work we do, go to bridgetheatre.co.uk, and you could even buy a ticket. Thanks for joining us, and see you next week for another edition of the Bridge Theatre podcast.